Well, welcome. It is so great to have you as our third wheel because our show is called In Three, so we call our guests our third wheel. So we love that you're here. And for anybody that is maybe not familiar with you yet, walk us through your background as a casting director, as a pop culture expert, and all of your whole backstory.
Okay, how much time do you have? Just kidding. So I grew up here in Los Angeles, like born and raised. There's only 6 of us, and I was always enamored with the industry from like the behind the scenes. Like growing up, I always knew I wanted to be somewhat involved when I would be, on sets. Like my dad was an OBGYN. He would deliver babies. So he would do a lot of celebrities. And I remember being like, I need to see how the magic would happen. We would go on sets and be on, sitcom sets. So when I first started casting, I was like, I'm living the dream. And I did that for many years until I realized like, this is crazy. This is an actually corrupt, like horrible world that we live in the industry, especially working with a lot of kids and a lot of kid actors and like that whole world. It's fun until it's not, like until you see kind of like how the sauce is made, if you know what I mean. And so I was around during all that big Disney, finding all those Disney stars. And it was so cool to see, but also you can see how there's like so much just bad stories that come out of all of that. I was an agent also. I was a talent agent for about a year after I was a casting director, which I also really didn't like because I was representing adults and like young adults, but adults. And it kind of reminds me of like the show The Valley a little bit, like working with just these young starving actors. I say that as a joke. They're not really, but like just hungry for fame and hungry for work. And they were coming to me being like, Donna, get me work. And I was like, I was just a casting director. Like, you're not it. Oh, I know what's out there. So it was just this horrible feeling of feeling like it was all on my hands to like get these people their jobs. So I kind of cut out of the industry. And my husband has always worked in reality TV. That's what he does. He's a camera operator, a DP.
Oh, wow.
And so I was just like always still immersed in it. And I have the background. So I would talk about it with my friends. I would talk about it all the time. And then because I just know the medium of podcasting, I just started Daily Dose of Donna beginning of January of 2023, just like on a whim. And started doing, I wanted a daily show because I love the idea of a daily show.
Yeah.
Like, well, number one, obviously, as you guys know, it's every day is so fastly, like everything changes so fast. And almost sometimes I'm thinking I need to do a podcast 2 times a day because the morning news is already old. By the evening, things are so fast changing. I just don't understand how you can have a weekly entertainment news podcast. Like there's no world
That's what we do.
Where a magazine, right? Yeah. Is that what you guys do?
Yeah, we do one podcast a week, one big podcast a week. And we do have that problem where we're like, damn. Like I wish we could go live right now, which is exactly what you do. And it's amazing to see you do that. And I feel like you go at a moment's notice. You're like, I'm ready to get the camera live and to share my hot take.
Well, the nice thing about it, I mean, I have like a schedule. I go Monday through Friday, and I have to just because of like my ads and stuff. Like I have to go every single day. But the nice thing that I realize is I used to feel drawn, like I have to go back on YouTube and I have to talk. But now I realize like, no, you can just post a TikTok or Instagram reel and just like update it that way and throw it up onto YouTube. Like a 5-minute video. It doesn't need to be professional. It doesn't need to look great, but my audience is still going to feel updated.
Engaged.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
But that's just the piece too that I think if you come from the TV background, you're like, it doesn't have to be perfect because the wiring was always like, it's got to be perfect and lit and edited amazingly. It can't be this quick, fast hit of stuff, but it actually can. Right? It serves the exact
My
purpose.
most viral videos are never the ones where I look good or never the ones where I'm lit well. It's always the ones where I'm in bed with no bra and no makeup. And in fact, those are the videos that, or like in my car, just like picking up my kids and I stop and I just film something. Those are the ones that get picked up and like thrown on Entertainment Tonight, or the ones that get picked up for, Billy Bush. It was like, I saw this video of yours. It's always the one where I'm in bed without a bra. But I feel like those are the ones if it's important enough that you're recording with no makeup on at 6:30 in the morning, then it's usually pretty breaking news.
Right.
Yeah.
And people are more interested. They don't care what you look like.
You should start another podcast called In Bed with No Bra On.
Done. I already did.
I love that so much. It's actually so inspiring to see you go live like that, because we are really like dismantling the muscles that we've developed from working in such polished, perfect TV, and also, I should say, and in the vein of what we're going to talk about, like unlearning this idea that like you have to be nice to everyone, because in our jobs, like we didn't know when we were going to see Ryan Reynolds next in person, and so
God, you know,
on that show we had to say the right things that were very neutral and kind of keep it cordial, which is not something that I feel like you necessarily subscribe to anymore, right? You're saying how you feel in the moment, unfiltered. Did you have to unlearn any of that, or like how did you develop that muscle for yourself?
It's so good that you're bringing this up, because I really had to unlearn this, because I was so scared. I didn't realize how scared I was. But even just when I wasn't even talking about like big A-list celebrities, when I was even just talking about Bravo people, reality stars, I remember that I would be so nervous to say anything negative about them, even just about what they did on an episode.
Right.
Because in my mind, I was still kind of like holding out this idea that, well, maybe they'll be a guest on my show one day.
Right.
Or maybe I'll see them at BravoCon, and I don't want them to hate me.
Yeah.
And this is the worst mistake you can make, I think, if you want people to watch your show or to listen to your podcast, because there are some podcasters out there that do this in the Bravo world, that interview.
I think I know who you're talking about. You've mentioned him a few times.
We'll talk offline. But they interview all the celebrities, all the reality stars, right? They come on every single one of their shows. And yet their shows, to me, are unlistenable. They're boring. They are vanilla.
Right.
They don't have ever like an interesting take. They just literally get the interview. And sometimes those are really good, like to listen to. I like them as a consumer. But to me, I find people are craving that authenticity. They want to feel the realness. And when I had to kind of get over this idea of like, wait, I don't want to be friends with them. Keep me far away from any of them, because I just want to talk shit about them.
You came to me in my feed in the wake of this Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively drama scandal lawsuit. For you, would you say this has been like a career-defining story in terms of your platform taking off? Yeah?
For sure. And it's so funny because I didn't, obviously, I it's not like I planned on it in this way. I had no idea it was going to go this way. I had no idea that it was going to take off the way it did. And I also had no idea that it was going to provide so much consistent content. Like, it's crazy. People think that we're making it up, but it really is constantly new updates. For me, it was an interesting story even before it was a story.
Right.
Because I was talking about it during the premiere. I just wasn't talking about it every day. But even during the premiere, just as someone that has worked in the industry before, I found it so weird that the director and the star was completely isolated from the rest of the cast. Like, you'd have to be an idiot to not think. And you guys come from this world. You probably were like, what?
Yeah, what's going on?
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found that to be so weird. And I have a past, not a past, like it sounds like we used to make out, but like I knew who Justin Baldoni was because of my casting background, knowing his name from that. He's been on a show that I worked on. I've met him before. So his name was not just some stranger. I've heard that like things about him before. I was just so thrown about the whole idea that I already had an attachment to the story. But nothing was like what happened in January of this year in terms of like when that amended complaint came out. And it was a Friday night. And I mean, it was already a big story, but when Justin Baldoni's lawyer on Friday night said like, it's like we're providing receipts.
Yeah.
And then I remember Saturday morning, the 100 whatever pages drop with Ryan Reynolds text messages about tattooing the person's face on his perineum, which I'll never forget because I had to learn how to say the word.
So did Callie.
Oh my God. I was like, wait, what? I thought it was a part of the brain. So yeah, that was a moment.
That was
for
a
sure.
big one.
And so, yeah, that was the day I remember I went live on YouTube. It was a Saturday. And normally I'm like with my kids, my husband, but we didn't have plans that day. And I said to my husband, I'm just going to go live on YouTube. I'm going to go through the lawsuit. He's like, go ahead. I had 6,000 people on my live for 6 hours. Like it was the craziest day ever. And that was the day that I was like, this is crazy. People are dying for this information.
Yeah,
right. So you've met Justin. Or what can you speak about him as a person, like as a man, as a human?
Yeah.
How would you describe him?
So my experience with him was such a drop in the pan brief that had he never come back up in It Ends With Us, I would have never thought about him again. Like it was not a thought. It was not like a memorable experience. And I've always been really honest about this. I thought he was an actor.
Right.
That's the truth. It was 2007. It was so early on. I thought he was just like a very typical actor.
Yeah.
Like I just remember feeling like he's just an actor, but I didn't have any negative feelings. I just felt, okay, he's just trying to kind of see how to, further himself in the industry. Like that's kind of the vibe I got from him. But I mean, I've met so many actors that are rude and horrible and disgusting and mean. That's why I'm saying he was kind of forgettable in that way. He's a good-looking guy, so you always think that, like good-looking guy, but just forgettable. My business partner, my casting partner, went out to dinner once with him and his current wife and her husband years ago. And she just remembers, she told me that she just said that he was super, like they were, because her husband, my casting partner's husband is a comedy writer. And so they went out like to kind of, I don't know, industry stuff, like to see if there was any chemistry, to like see if there's a project in the works or something.
Yeah.
And I just remember she told me that he was super nice. She was super nice, but like they don't drink. They were just like really, really nice. Like I've heard that from multiple people that know them. They're just really nice, which some people feel like is a little boring. Like just like, that's honestly the vibe.
Right.
Just normie.
Super
normie.
Because I wondered if your personal experience with Justin is sort of coloring a little bit of your perspective on the case in general, or are you just looking at the facts and this is your take on what you see in the headlines? Or is what you know of him and your personal connection with your friends and the things coloring in some of it for you? Because we've both met, in our experience in the industry, I have spent like a whole day producing Ryan, and Danielle has spent countless times with both.
Like Ryan and Taylor. Yeah, all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which you can't help but sort of use some of that to color in between the lines of what people aren't saying or maybe what people don't know. So I wonder how you feel about that with your personal experience with Justin.
So if you followed me at the time during the premiere and all of that, I was very much like, something feels off. At first, during the premiere, I said, well, if all of them are against Justin, yeah, I've met Justin before, but if all of them are against Justin, clearly he did something. Like that was my first go.
Right.
But then I started to see all this stuff and I was like, no, she seems clearly like not great. I don't even want to say that, I hate to say that is what she would, operate as. That was the smear campaign. No, it was just literally interviews that she had done.
Right.
That got unearthed.
Yes.
Then it was annoying because we would see a lot of those stage paparazzi photo shoots. I remember I would talk about them on my show in September and October of her and Ryan just holding hands, just like we saw last week, walking in like matching gear.
Yeah,
they would always be coordinated. It was so obnoxious to me. And I was like, that it seems trying too hard. But as we all have said, like it would have just gone away. We just would have stopped talking about it. She could have just done another simple favor this year and we would have been like, okay, Blake's back.
Right.
No big deal. But December 21st, when the complaint dropped, I read that complaint head to toe. And then I watched the movie that weekend. My first thought when I watched the movie was I feel there's chemistry. I don't know why. I thought as just a woman, my casting director background, I think Justin is a gorgeous human being. I think Blake, it's hard for me now to say this, but I do think she's a beautiful woman.
Right.
I think that they had chemistry in that movie. I was like, something is weird here. I read the complaint and my heart goes out to Blake. Okay. Now, this is kind of like insider information, but one of my girlfriends who I've known for years and years and years works at that agency. And the big one, right? And I message her and I'm like, oh my God, did you read this complaint? And she's like, no, I haven't. And I was like, okay, I'm reading it. I'm freaking out. This is crazy. Now, you remember this is just Blake's side at this point. And I'm like, I feel devastated for Blake. I cannot believe that Justin did this. And she's like, I know. It's horrible. It's crazy. Now, she had also been very close and like with the reps of Amber Heard. So she was also pro Amber Heard. It was like really weird conversation. So I was very pro Blake. I couldn't handle how bad I felt that I believed this smear campaign, quote unquote. I'm using my quotes.
I think we all felt that way.
Yeah. So I don't think knowing Justin from before did a thing to me. I immediately believed what I read. I was like, this is awful. Until I was like, wait, what? Now, if you know me at all and you watch my show and you listen to my content, like I am a big person that questions everything I read and hear and see in legacy media. I am convinced that they are all messing with us in some capacity. There's a reason that they tell us what they tell us. The headlines are very misleading. And so the New York Times is one of the biggest, like they're one of the biggest offenders of like fake lies a lot of times. And this is not just with Blake and Justin. So that also got me like questioning everything. And then of course, Justin, I've known way too many people now in real life who have told me horror stories of working with Blake. Horror stories. And then Blake's mom. Horror stories.
Really?
So
do we know about Blake's mom being hard to work with?
So Blake's mom has a reputation in this industry because she's talent. Well, she doesn't work anymore, but she was a talent manager she was her daughter's manager and she was many other people's managers for many years. And she was known in the industry as a nightmare. Okay. She was like stage mom personified. And when I spoke to a dear friend of mine who's been an agent, a talent agent for children and young adults for over 25, 30 years, maybe even more, she said to me, hand to God, Donna, no one in my entire career has ever made me cry except Elaine Lively.
Wow.
Whoa.
So everyone that I've talked to about Willie, Elaine, McAlpin, or whatever, Blake wanted to call her at the Time Magazine event, has said and told me that she's incredibly difficult. She goes with her daughter to every single set. I don't know if that's still the case, but she did. She is incredibly difficult. She's like, she believes that daughter deserves everything, gets whatever she wants. There is no such thing as no in that family.
Wow. What about what is the worst thing you've heard from your insiders about Blake and her behaviors?
Just exactly the same kind of energy, just entitled, doesn't understand that, it's a group effort.
Right.
Like the worst was when Michelle Trachtenberg passed away. So when Michelle died, and I've known Michelle as a casting director for so many years. I loved Michelle. The day that she dies, or the day after she dies, I don't even remember if it was the day after. You know how Blake Lively writes that like silly Instagram story about her yummy lip gloss.
Right.
So someone who knows Michelle and knew her really well during the Gossip Girl days when they worked together sends me a DM who had been following this whole story and was like, I am disgusted over Blake, using Michelle's death to like make it about her. Because Blake had been so silent. Remember, Blake hadn't said a word on social media yet. This is before Another Simple Favor, before any of her like constant talking that she is now.
Now we can't get rid of her.
This was her first return to social media in months. And she's like, I can't believe that she's using her death as like a return to social media like this. And it's not even just a picture like RIP, I'll always think of you. It's like making it about her and her yummy lip gloss, you know? And she said that Michelle and her Michelle despised her. They didn't get along. Blake was not a team player on the set. Michelle was a very, very, at that point, you know, she was a child actress. So she had been working for years and years. Michelle was a very professional actress. When she got Gossip Girl, she wanted to be on time on set. She like had a schedule, and Blake was just kind of willy-nilly and would make people late, and she was always drama, and there was like always things, and Michelle didn't like it. She didn't like working with Blake, according to this person who was on set a lot and was friendly with Michelle. And so I reported on it. I got killed by Blake supporters. Killed.
Really?
But I say it like it is.
You really do.
You do.
You really do. So can we get into some of the nitty-gritty of the breaking news today? Because we're dying to know your hot takes on this. We know you have many. The Taylor Swift subpoena has been officially dropped by Baldoni's team. So take us to where we are now. There are two narratives that we're seeing out there. One is Blake's team saying, yay, like this is our win, and we were staunchly against this subpoena and we worked to fight it, and this is our doing, and this is a win for us. And then the other side, which is saying, well, actually, this is the work of Taylor's team cooperating with Baldoni's lawyers. So take us to where we are today and your take on what's going on.
I mean, this is how it's going to always be now. From now on, there's always going to be one side and their take, and the other side. It's like talking heads. It's politics, right? 100%, the subpoena was pulled, but for one reason and one reason only, because there's no need for it anymore. Brian Friedman would have never pulled the subpoena unless he got what he needed. There's no legal, it wasn't like the judge ruled on it. The judge didn't force his hand. The judge didn't say like subpoena must be quashed. That would be the only reason that Brian Friedman would pull it for Blake or Blake's team. The only reason he pulled it is because he got what he needed. So the only reason the subpoena was in place in the first place was to prove that this alleged extortion happened. There was apparently this communication between Taylor Swift's attorney and Michael Gottlieb, which is Blake Lively's attorney, saying like, don't try to extort my client, basically.
Right.
And Brian Friedman heard of it from whoever his source was that is close with Taylor. People are saying it's either the dad or Tree Payne or someone else who Taylor is very close with and trusts and, you know, wants the best for Taylor. And the attorneys, you know, conferred probably with Taylor and Taylor's team. And she said, give them whatever the hell they need so that I don't have to show anything else of mine. Because why in the world is she at this point trying to protect Blake when the next step is completely exposing everything of her own? Like Taylor Swift would never, ever at this point choose to protect Blake Lively over herself right now at this point.
Right.
So what do you think she could have given over to Brian Friedman then?
It has to be this communication, some proof of communication that the attorneys, either that one of the attorneys, like Blake Lively's attorney, went to Venable, which is Taylor Swift's attorney, saying, if you know, can you please can you have your client write a letter of support or write a social media post in support? If you do not, we have private text messages, you know, in our pockets, something along, whether it's like an official threat or it's just like a suggestion. Be careful, you know, if you don't, we have this. And then there is supposedly a letter from Taylor Swift's attorney to Michael Gottlieb, which is Blake's, saying, don't you dare ever try to extort my client. And that's where it was. That's where it ended. That was back in February-ish. And that's the only piece of evidence that Brian Friedman wanted. He wanted proof that the attorneys, Blake and Ryan's attorneys, were trying to get Taylor to do something for her.
Mm-hmm. So we think he has that now, and her subpoena is no longer. What about being deposed? Is she still at risk of that happening?
I think so. I think she can still be deposed, where he can sit down with her and he can say, you know, on camera, this won't be like in trial yet, but on camera saying, did you receive a text message or communication from Blake Lively asking you to delete text messages? When did that happen? A, B, and C. Did you receive this? Did you receive that? But she doesn't have to physically turn over text messages that say, from Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni is so hot. I don't know why he doesn't sleep with me.
Right. For example.
I mean, my brain goes into like all these different directions, what those text messages could say.
Yeah, I saw your video on that, which I devoured. Back to the extortion allegations, or whatever version of it is. Like, this is where the story loses me here, because I know that Blake's team is incredibly messy. She has been ill-advised from the beginning. Obviously, her lawyers and whoever's advising her, they're not on the level of like Justin's team, okay? But I just cannot fathom a world where someone said, this is a good idea. Let's threaten one of the most powerful people in the world, the godmother to your children and your best friend, with exposing her text messages. And then, like, let's play it out. If they actually did release those text messages of Taylor's, like, the world would rebel against Blake. Like, I have a hard time believing that this is true. Can you convince me that this is true? Or like, what do you know that I don't? Or how are you looking at this that I'm not seeing it?
So I'm with you in the sense that like it doesn't feel at all like it's something that could physically happen. Like it seems insane.
It's insane.
But it is, yeah.
I also think that Ryan and Blake are, and see, that's where I'm like, is it Ryan and Blake? Is it her attorneys?
Okay.
Is it the PR people? Like who exactly there is managing that? But I do think there is like some, I don't want to diagnose them, but there is like, there's number one, there's crazy narcissism, malignant narcissism that we've seen over and over, where they truly do not think that they're the problem. I mean, it's clear. There's no part of them that feels sad or guilty for anything that they've done here. You can tell in the way that they walk and talk and post on their Instagram stories. There's like, they're walking through the world like on air. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't matter that they've ruined so many lives already. It doesn't matter. But more than that, I think that they were so freaked and so desperate, especially in February during that Super Bowl weekend, when the world was like, where's Blake? Where's Blake? Where's Blake? Where's Blake? Where I think that they were in that moment just grasping at anything. And maybe there was something that Taylor wrote in a text message that maybe she didn't say, I'm going to expose 10 years of your text messages, but maybe she said, like, you texted this, and like, I have this on you in the sense of like, seriously, you're not going to have my back? Like, do you know how much I can screw you over with just this?
Oh my God. I cringe. I can't.
I know.
This is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
This shit. Like, no Hollywood script is this good. Like, it's actually wild.
It's so wild.
But then you go back and you think to yourself, like, and I don't know a lot about like Taylor. I can't sit here and say like, wow, Taylor just knows so much. But Taylor Swift has proven herself to be somewhat of a smart, intuitive person.
100%.
And she makes quite good decisions, clearly, because look at where she is in her career. Something happened to make her say, I don't want to publicly support you.
Yes.
So what was that? When did that happen? What happened to make her say, even from the beginning, even in December, when all of the girls from Sisterhood of Traveling Pants came out and supported her, when all these random, I can't think of that many, but like a few different people came out and supported her, why didn't Taylor ever publicly support her? Like, what happened?
Right. We were wondering that too, because in the timeline, the last time they were seen together was like October of 2024. And you're right, there has been no support. And we were wondering where that fracture was and where that turning point was too, where she was like, you know what? No,
I'm not going to stand with this woman.
This is not working for me, and this is good in some way could harm me.
What would you have to know, to go from being best friends to integrating your families and being so tight knit like that? It, the godmother thing really shoots me through the roof, because I'm just my friends and their kids and that closeness. I just can't imagine what would have had to happen or what she would have had to know.
You know what it could be? I'm just thinking this out loud. Taylor is someone that has advocated for a lot of women who are victims of sexual violence, right? Like Kesha and Dr. Luke. I know she spoke up for her, and they're not even that close from what I know. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that Blake was hanging out with Taylor one night and was just listen, I'm going to tell you something. Justin Baldoni sexually harassed me. She just decided to tell her out of nowhere in October at dinner with her and Travis and Ryan. I want to tell you something. He sexually harassed me. And Taylor is probably wait, what? That's not what happened at all, because she's probably thinking but we texted about
I know that
the fact that you liked him or that he was great. You never said anything bad about him.
And then we did that
text.
rooftop thing.
Yeah. And it's weird. I'm just thinking out loud. And then maybe that's why in that call that Brian Friedman had in February, he said that the person said on the call that 5 months prior, which would have been September, October, she was asked to delete those text messages. So maybe she said, I need you to delete those text messages that I had texted with you. Because yes, he did. And I'm looking back. Yeah, he actually did sexually harass me. And maybe Taylor was wait, I'm not a big fan at all of this plan of becoming a fake victim of sexual harassment.
So maybe she knows the truth.
Yeah, maybe in that conversation, Blake was trying to rewrite the history, get her friend on board of the rewrite. And Taylor was no.
Yeah, because maybe Taylor was I don't want to support a man being falsely accused of sexual harassment. That's too far.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Something happened.
You are very convincing also. I got to say, I did not expect to have this conversation and be okay. I have been more I have seen or taken more of Blake's side than I think the majority of people on the internet. And I've wavered. We've been back and forth, and I think the whole world is whiplash, back and forth, not really knowing, at first we're all team Blake, and then we're well, I see these text messages and it looks weird, and then we're back to Blake, and then we're back to Justin. But I have taken a stance on this podcast where I've said, I believe women, and I'm for women, and I have a really hard time taking a man's side. When you first started reporting on this, did you ever feel that sense of sort of reconciling? Because I know you're for women. I mean, I'm talking to you. I can see that you're a girl's girl.
Of course.
Have you ever had that feeling of I want to be for women in this, but it's hard to be for women? Yeah, torn.
Of course. I mean, I grapple with it every day, and not anymore at this point, unless she presents something that pulls me back in. At the first few weeks, I would really grapple with it, and I would talk to some of my other friends who are content creators, and I'd be I hope I'm not in a cult or I'm missing something. And I would try to talk to people like you. In fact, a lot of people in my DMs were so pro Blake, and I wouldn't ignore them. I would ask them questions. I'd be why? What are you seeing? What are you seeing? And I would be open to it until I realized that they didn't ever have anything of substance telling me that I was wrong, except I believe women. Okay. Women should only be believed if they have evidence to back it up.
I think the moment for me when I was aha, I knew she was telling the truth, which didn't pan out for me, was...
But we love you for it. We really love you for your side of things. Yeah.
Was when they said that her female co-stars were going to come forward and...
forgot that part.
And support her claims.
Yeah.
And that kind of also went nowhere. I felt I was in an echo chamber being if other women corroborate this story, I fucking believe her, okay? If many women are saying this, I believe them. But then that really they kind of said that was going to happen, but they wouldn't really give us enough information to really like latch on to it in a way that felt really substantial.
Yeah, everyone was waiting, I think, for that Blake smoking gun. It's like, this is going to be the thing that's going to prove to the world that she was wronged. And it was, you're right, it was like these little breadcrumbs that kind of have gone nowhere. Whereas on Justin's side, it's like bomb after stunt after stunt after
And I think
big thing after big thing.
I just don't want to believe that a woman would abuse the system in this way, knowing that our instinct is to believe women and to take such advantage of that kind of movement and lie just for the sake of what? Taking control of a mediocre film?
I think it was more than that. I think that there could be a million reasons why. I think it was a combination of so many things. It could have been that. It could have been the fact that she didn't like the fact that the world was turning on her and it made her feel like shit. And then she had to, it didn't help that Stephanie Jones, the PR woman that started the fire, Stephanie Jones is the reason for this, I'm convinced, because Blake Lively probably didn't like the way things were turning out. But the reason that Blake Lively went this far is because Stephanie Jones signaled a red flag to Leslie Sloan and said that's, one PR to the other PR saying, hey guys, I have text messages that are going to prove something, which made them file that fake lawsuit to get the subpoena, to get those text messages, which Blake Lively's team were like, oh my God, we have a smear campaign, which is why they ended up suing. Now, by the way, smear campaign would have been one thing. Had they just gone after Justin for the smear campaign, he could still be working. He could still be going on red carpets. Right. His whole team at Wayfarer is just at Cannes right now for the film festival because Scarlett Johansson from Wayfarer just did this huge movie. He's not there. Everyone from Wayfarer is there. Justin Baldoni's still in hiding in Hawaii, like a pariah. Okay, she has completely ruined his life just simply because of that sexual harassment claim. But the smear campaign, which we're still trying to find evidence of, still, there's no real evidence of anything. It's like she's going off vibes. I feel like that's kind of all it is. She's going off vibes. Like, I feel like he did this and I feel like he did this, but there's no evidence. You can't start a fight that you're not 100% sure that you can win. And Blake started this war without solid evidence of winning. And I remember right before she released her amended complaint, we were all waiting till midnight. It was literally, it dropped at 11:59 p.m. And we were scrolling because I remember the attorneys, they were like, just wait. And we were like, for what?
Nothing. Yeah, so you're right. Nothing came out of that.
Right.
If it's true, you don't have to fight so hard to prove it. You don't have to lie so much. You definitely don't have to extort a best friend.
Okay, so now what do you think? Is there a world where either party settles? Or are we going to see this in trial in March of 2026?
Well, we won't see anything because it won't be televised, and I'm devastated.
I know. But maybe the testimony at Madison Square Garden, we could get that.
Can you imagine?
Oh, God.
So, look, I don't know. I mean, I can't believe it's still going.
Right.
I thought for sure it was going to settle. I think that we're dealing with two people, and when I say two people, I mean Ryan and Blake, who truly, at this moment, think that they were wronged.
Right.
To their core. And I think that the attorneys have no power over them. That's why they keep filing these crazy things. I think they just have to do whatever their clients are telling them to do. And they're collecting so much money. They're buying summer houses and yachts.
Right. Yeah. And the lawyers are the winners here.
Oh my God. These lawyers are making so much money.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We call that wrong and strong. They're just being wrong and strong.
I want to be a lawyer in my next life.
Yeah.
What do you think it would take for either side to back down at this point? But Justin and Blake, Blake and Ryan, we see them out. We see them pretending like their lives and their houses are not on fire, like that meme with everything on fire in the bag. Everything's fine. what do you think it would take to kind of get them to fold or get them to let this go? Like, if this Taylor stuff isn't doing it, like, what do you think it would take, or is it possible?
I guess the only other option maybe would be if like Isabella Ferrer or Jenny Slate, like another actress on the movie film, came forward and said that Justin Baldoni was like a stand-up human being.
Right. This is bullshit.
Like if one of those women came forward and like stood up for Justin, maybe they would finally, but I just don't see that happening. I just think that those two are so quiet. They've already stood for, I just think people are so, I don't know. I don't know if anything will shut them up. I think they're going all the way.
Crazy.
Wow. That's wild to think that we have another almost year of this.
Before I let you go, I just was like, out of curiosity's sake, you say that like Justin is persona non grata, but it does feel like the world is on his, like the majority of the world is on his side. So why couldn't he, like, where's the strategy there to not just do what Blake's doing, to show up and do what he did off the top of this whole thing in Hawaii, being papped at the airport, all smiles, looking handsome, looking happy with his family? Like, what's preventing him from going to Cannes with his team and just being like, you know what? I got nothing to prove.
And nothing to hide.
So,
yeah.
Well, he still may like find a time soon to do something public. He chose to, I think from what I read, like he's not going to Cannes because he doesn't want to take away from the movie.
That's fair.
He knows that if he was there, it would take like all the attention away from just the film.
Right.
You know, Justin, from what I've read and what I've seen about the Baha'i faith, it is an incredibly positive leaning faith. And just like I would be the worst Baha'i because I love to gossip, but he cannot talk badly about those around him. And so for him to do any interviews or anything, he would have to completely avoid talking about it or anything. I think that anything he does right now in the public could be really misconstrued by the media. Like he's being
you're right.
He's being accused of sexual harassment. There's people out there that have not been paying attention to everything. They just see the headlines. This Blake Lively is getting Time Magazine Titan of the Year. She's talking about protecting all the women on Seth Meyers. Like Ryan Reynolds is doing all this charity for cancer. And then Justin Baldoni is this like pariah where he's been accused of sexual assault like or harassment. There's people out there that would be like, ew, you know, anything he does is bad. Like it's almost a good thing that he's quiet.
Yeah. I definitely think he has the winning team of advisors.
Yeah.
How,
no
with all
question.
the money and access that Ryan and Blake have they not found people that can give them a proper strategy? Like it's mind-boggling.
Well, I'll tell you why. I mean, I don't have like an actual idea, but I mean, I don't have the, like confirmation, but I think I know. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively do not take advice. I don't think. I think that they know best because people like them, they've been surrounded by, do you remember how I said that her mom never said no?
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe that Blake and Ryan are told what to do. I think Ryan is very sure of like, I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. And that's why Blake sounds like Ryan a lot. She speaks like Ryan. She makes jokes that sound like Ryan. She parrots her husband a lot in her wording. And I think that they kind of confer together. And if they brought in another, number one, they still work with Leslie Sloan. After all of this, they're still working with this damn PR person who she's the worst. The worst.
Like it.
And I think she still operates from 1995. Remember, she represented Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, boy.
Okay. So she's awful. And they still will work with her. So, like, they're not open to, I guarantee you they've been pitched, like, amazing ideas, and they're not open to it. Right, like, if I were them, I would shut the hell up.
Yeah.
I would stop posting on my stories every second.
That's where your wrong and strong stuff comes in.
Yeah, it's like, it always gives to me, do you know who we are? And that's the kind of place it feels like they're operating from.
Yeah.
And that's
it's totally like
it's all ego and that's where it gets really problematic because you could have good advisors and people suggesting strategy and ways you could mitigate some of this. And it's just like, no, we know what's best. We know what's best. We know what we're doing. But
If we've learned anything
crazy
from Taylor Swift, it's like silence is king in times like this. Like the way that she handles crisis and the way that she can just go dark and take a beat. If they were still friends, maybe Taylor would give her that advice, but clearly they're not.
Nope. I guarantee you Taylor couldn't stand Blake towards the end of their relationship.
I always wondered.
I think she was probably, I'm assuming, panicking because the world was against her and all these things are coming out about her and people were hearing and sharing and feeling all these things about her, and then revealed so much of who she was, I think, to her friend in that moment too, because then now she's at the risk of losing this friend. And what happens when you get to that point of desperation, you act like a crazy person.
Totally.
You're backed into a corner. And when you feel like you have nothing to lose is where I think people get really dangerous, where they're just like, forget it. Like, I'll release all of our messages.
Totally.
10 years.
Oh my
it's crazy.
God.
Wow.
Totally.
What an illuminating chat.
This has been amazing.
You're the best.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us and with the world really every day, and also inspiring us to take our hot takes to the next level of heat, because you are the queen of hot takes.
You really are.
Aww. Thank you guys so much for having me. It was so much fun. I feel Canadian.